I was 23 years old, just graduated from university, and no idea what I wanted to do in my life. Then a Facebook post changed it all. I proceeded to move to Moheli, Comoros in Africa, where I lived for 8 months with the most incredible people, teaching diving, living on the beach, learning about conservation, and making some film videos. And this is a day in the life. My friend first tagged me in a post about a scuba diving instructor job in Moheli where you need to speak French and English. I didn't even know where that was. I googled it, saw that there were humpback whales, that it was north of Madagascar, and I was sold. I applied and my set of skills perfectly fit what they needed at the time.
So I start my day by coming down to the dive shop area and preparing my equipment before the customers come in. So today I'm having customers which have already been diving here for about a week, so I don't have to do any paperwork, but that's the first thing we do usually the night before or something. Make sure they have all their paperwork, their insurance, and their appropriate certification cards. So yeah, now I'm going to prepare my gear and think about where we're going to dive.
The dive instructor life is far from glamorous, however it allows you to do something you love and get paid for it. I stayed in Moheli, Africa for 8 months, and after arriving I quickly found out that this was a place I would fall in love with. Moheli is the smallest of the 4 islands that make up the Comoros, and it is the only one that has a national marine park. So in the mornings, this meant that the net fishing was forbidden, and therefore there was a greater amount of biodiversity in the area.
So my gear is prepared now, and I'm going to check on the boat if that's ready to go.
And my dive team was probably the best part of the whole job.
Almost. So now that my own gear is prepped, I go and have breakfast and think about where we're going to be diving. So I have 2 advanced divers today, so we can check out some cool sites, go to a little bit of depth and try and see some fun stuff.
Living and working in a resort may make your world feel really small. However, I absolutely loved it. Every morning I got to go out to breakfast where they catered special food for me as I was a vegan. As you can imagine, it's quite hot in Africa, therefore staying hydrated was key, but the fresh rainwater was absolutely delicious. Following breakfast, which was mostly fruit, I'd go and pick out dive gear for my customers. I would always make sure to check their sizes at breakfast if I hadn't yet written it down. Then of course, reef-safe sunscreen, which is an absolute must for any ocean goer. Laka Lodge is a relatively small eco-resort, so it meant I maximum had 3 dives a day with around 6 divers per trip. As the diving instructor, my job was to make sure all the paperwork was done, that any customers that were doing courses were taken care of, while my teammates were in charge of prepping the boat, loading the boat, and then doing some dive guiding. Yaseb was my dive master at the time, and I managed to certify him from advanced to dive master, and he was absolutely fantastic. Our captain was in charge of making sure the first aid stuff was on board and that everyone would get out and back safely. I love smaller dive centers and organizations because while it may seem a bit of an overkill of having 3 crew for 3 customers, it's honestly such a wonderful way to go. I know that's not the possibility everywhere in the world, but in Laka Lodge, that high level of care was really provided for all of our customers. Being the only instructor with only minimum customers coming on board also means you can choose all the dive sites. This particular dive spot was one of my absolute favorites, but we would have to reserve it for only advanced divers, because as you can see, the depth was quite large. We would descend to about 22 meters and then swim along the wall, which was teeming with wildlife. While my GoPro footage is probably not the best, you can see the clarity of the water, which was about 20 meters visibility, and I had my dive master sometimes, not want to jump into the water when it was less than 12 meter viz, because we were so spoiled. Green turtles and hawksbill turtles are both very common in this area, as it is just 50 kilometers away from Itsamia, which is one of the spots that David Attenborough visited to document the birth of turtles. If you want to see a video about turtles and hatching turtles, I highly recommend my video about relocating a turtle nest. We wouldn't see sharks that often in this area. I don't know why, but this was a little white tip that we saw at the end of the first dive. Since we were the only dive group, our boat captain would not moor the boat, meaning he would just wait for us to show up and have my safety sausage as a marker of where he should come pick us up. This dive was absolutely gorgeous, and we headed over to the beach now for our surface interval before hopping in for our second dive. This was probably the most common beach we would head to, and I would participate in my bucket a day. This was a little challenge I set to myself where I would bring my little pink bucket to the beach and try and bring back a bucket filled with trash every single time. When we arrived, we saw fresh green turtle nesting tracks of a mama that had dragged herself up to the beach early that morning and laid her eggs. This was something that we would keep a tally of to know how many green turtles would come and nest on the islands in the Moheli National Park. Following taking note of the green turtle nesting, I would go to my bucket a day and start collecting trash. Even though we did this every single day, the amount of trash we would find is astounding. Of course, this is not completely surprising since the introduction of plastic or plastic bags came to Moheli in 2007. Prior to that, all their packaging was natural, so it is only understandable that they would throw out the plastic like they threw out their banana leaves and expected it to decompose. Further proof why education is important and judging other countries and the way they live is not helpful. And that's it. That was the day in my life of a diving instructor on Moheli. I wanted to revamp this series because I don't feel I did it justice, and all the stories I want to tell from my time in Cambodia and Comoros is just such a crucial insight into diving instructing, conservation, mindfulness, and learning about other cultures. So let me know if that is something you're interested in. But for now, you can watch some of my other videos about working in Cambodia and other places around the world.